I burst into the storage room, my heart slamming against my ribs like an electron trying to escape. My breaths came in ragged gasps, drawing in the thick dust and the musty tang of sterile air that clung to everything in the cramped space. A cough ripped through me, followed by a sneeze that sent sparks of pain shooting up my arm. Damn these growths! Why wouldn't they stop? Fabric of my shirt scraped against the wiry fibers, protruding from my skin, each brush igniting a fresh wave of fire. I clamped my jaw shut, grunting through gritted teeth, swallowed the scream building in my throat. My eyes locked on the back wall, where the fluorescent light from the hallway sliced through the gloom, casting harsh shadows over my target. It had all started with this damn computer. My fingers trembled as I fumbled with the cord, the growths on my arm pulsing with every movement. The closer I got, the stronger it was. The wires writhed like worms in my skin, weaving around my arm like vines. Pain screeched from the marrow of my bones. I tried to ignore it and shoved the cord into the back of the computer anyway. The fan spun to life with a powerful hum. Dust crackled as the tower shook. The screen flickered on. My jaw unhinged. My eyes widened until they ached. My heart stuttered to a halt as the login prompt materialized. All those moments added up in my mind. How had I not seen it? The haze from the pain had dulled my thoughts, but now it was clear as day. The name glowed there, mocking me. The truth stared into my empty eyes. John. Welcome to Blue Horror Stories. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You never know what might come for you if you do not. I yanked my hand back with a sharp yelp, the sting of the electric zap racing up my arm like a live current. Idiot! I was always forgetting to discharge these power cables. I chided myself, shaking my fingers vigorously. The air hung heavy with the scent of solder and ozone, a familiar cocktail that grounded me, even on bad days. I stared at the power cord lying innocently on the workbench, its thick black rubber sheath cracked and brittle, flaking away in places to reveal the twisted wires beneath. Frayed and exposed like veins in an open wound. Residual charge, basic stuff. Ken, get your head in the game. Popped my cinched finger into my mouth, sucking gently. A holdover from childhood scrapes that somehow still brought a flicker of relief, even if it felt childish now. Moisture and coolness, that's the key to stopping blisters. Science over superstition. Cool saliva eased the burn just enough for my mind to shift gears, calculating wire gauges in the background like an idle processor. 14mm insulated wire, blue and red. Yeah, that'll handle the load without overheating. Leaning across the cluttered desk, I grabbed them from the stack in the corner. I cut the frayed ends straight off the corroded rubber jacket and began replacing the wires. The monotony caused my mind to wander. The subtle tick of the clock, that metronome keeping my focus, suddenly blared in my head as my stomach growled. I leaned back in my creaky chair, tilting my head to eye the drab gray ceiling of the repair shop. How many hours had I wasted staring at the same spot, dreaming of bigger things? Fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead, casting a sickly pallor over the cluttered space. Shelves crammed with gutted monitors, tangled cables, and dusty circuit boards. This place was a time capsule, but it was mine. For now. Clock on the wall ticked towards 5. Done already. Time flew when I was in the zone. Pushed back from the bench, the legs scraping against the concrete floor with a grating screech. Swung open the door, my small workspace, and a wall of tobacco smoke hit me like a fog bank. Mr. Clemens and his vices, predictable as a short circuit. Across the shop, the old man hunched over a workbench, a cigarette dangling from his lips. A wet cough rattled from his chest as I called out, "Those cancer sticks are gonna do you in before this junk heap does." Why did I even bother? I'd been berating him for years. He'd never change. But neither would I. Mr. Clemens waved me off without looking up, the ember glowing brightly as he inhaled. I waved goodbye, pressing my back against the glass door. The chime of the bell rang in my ears as I walked out of the computer repair shop, heading back to my dormitory. I yawned as the campus appeared in the distance. The walk had cleared my head a bit, but it had emptied what was left of my stomach. It screeched and groaned against me. I walked past several students entering the front foyer. I heard my name and turned back, holding the door as someone jogged the distance between us. Ken, thanks for holding the door. But you look like you were in a rush, so you know me, I had to cause a fluff. Took a deep breath and let the door go as I looked at the student. I just got off work. I'm starving, so yeah, I guess I'm in a hurry. Pointed at my stomach, waiting expectantly, but it refused to act. Well, I guess your stomach doesn't do cues. The student laughed, patted me on the arm. I'm in a rush too. Never enough time, never enough money. We got a party to crash. Still can't convince you to come? One day off ain't gonna hurt you. Hell, the way you've been going seems like you'll be ready to drop any day. We still have over a month before midterms. Live a little while you're here. You're paying for it. Enjoy it. Well, it's because I'm paying for it that I need to avoid that. Sorry, man. We can party all we want when we graduate. For now, I gotta stay focused. But by all means, go have fun for the both of us. I returned the arm pat and headed towards my dorm. Strode into the dorm. Finally home. A wave of relief washed over me amid the pungent smell of old books and something long lost in the trash. I rolled my eyes at the odor, refusing to do my roommate Paul's job. Reaching for the mini fridge handle, I fished my dinner from the back. The crumple of paper sounded like music to my hunger. The cold brown paper bag was slightly damp with moisture. I licked my lips and grabbed a water bottle from inside the door. I sat at my desk, a glorified TV dinner stand, and reached into the bag, revealing a squished PB&J. Simple, efficient, fuel for the brain. I bit into it savagely, the peanut butter sticking to the roof of my mouth as I chewed. I opened the water and chugged half of it. Satisfaction of the body. Established. Satisfaction of the mind. Incoming. I muttered around a mouthful, wiping jelly from my chin. Scarfed the rest, tossing the crusts into the overflowing trash can by the door. For a moment, I lingered, staring at the peeling wallpaper. I had told Paul to talk to the dean about getting our room fixed up over the holidays, after midterms. I reached across the desk and placed my engineering textbook, a stack of paper, and a pencil directly in front of me. The long day seeped into my bones as I sat and studied. My eyes burned, my muscles sore, but I carried on. The struggle between my part-time job at Repair As You Go, Ragey for short, Mr. Clemens' shop, and college studies had fueled my dream to become an electrical engineer. I got practical experience hands-on in the shop and theory from school, perfect combo to elevate me above the other students. I mainly competed against the other part-timers at Ragey, college kids like me who rotated shifts to keep Mr. Clemens from keeling over. But from what I'd seen of my roommate, who I'd vouched for to Mr. Clemens for a job, had caused some strife. Paul was not, in fact, the hard-working, upstanding individual I described, despite that being all I'd seen of the man as my roommate. I'd convinced Mr. Clemens, but the old man was always more wary of my stories afterwards. That's why I'd shut myself in the back room for the last month, kept my head down, tools in hand, coaxing life back into dead cables. Give me wires over words any day. People complicate everything. Objects just need the right connection. I looked over at the trash can and rolled my eyes again. That hothead could never remain neutral. I wished he was the grounding. Thought Paul had been gone longer than just the weekend. Maybe by now he'd decided to skip out on school altogether. I would never dream of missing school or work. I had to build an immaculate image for myself. Working for Mr. Clemens was only the beginning. I'd autopiloted my walk to work. My sleep the night before had been strained and limited. The chime of the shop's bell brought me back to reality. I shook off the inertia of my steps and walked to Mr. Clemens. We exchanged minimal pleasantries, nodding and saying good afternoon. Mr. Clemens, however, gave me a look that almost made me stop. You look like my granddad, son. I met his gaze and stuttered. What? You look dead. Mr. Clemens laughed. You college students all look like zombies. I guess that means you're getting your worth from the institution. I grunted with a half smile. Well, if you don't hear me in the back, I might have just passed out. Mr. Clemens' smile evaporated. You don't sleep on my clock. We both laughed, and before I could walk away, Mr. Clemens spoke again. I'm not worried. I got something in the back that'll keep you awake. maybe even after shift. Shifted my gaze to the workstation at the back of the shop. I nodded with a curious grin and started toward it. My eyes lit up immediately upon entering my little workroom. A strange cable sat on my desk. No outer casing, just bare wires with insulation so faded the standard blue and red hues blurred into muddy grays. I picked it up gingerly, separating the strands. 2 reds, 2 blues, a yellow, green, black, white, and a grounding wire twisted, double thick, as if built to handle a surge that could fry a city block. Images splayed through my mind. I looked down at the small blister on the end of my finger. The memory of my first electric shock surged forward. I'd been plugging in a TV cable. My finger touched the prong as I inserted it. The zap was so charged my hair stood on end. I'd been hooked, dissecting every schematic I could find to conquer the invisible force of electricity. That shock was a wake-up call. Electricity doesn't forgive mistakes, but it rewards understanding. And this I did not understand. Plug-N sported 4 prongs and dual grounds, an outlet configuration I'd never seen, not even in the custom jobs that trickled through the shop. It was like it was designed for something revolutionary. The other end looked savaged, wires splayed like they'd been torn free in a rage. My breath quickened. A prototype. My God, this could be the next big thing. My fingers itched to dissect it further. I set aside my half-finished repair on the old cord, diving in with strippers and solder, the metallic tang of copper filling my nose as I worked. If this was what I thought, I could be on the edge of discovery, not just repairing, creating. Hours blurred. I insulated the frayed ends, adding splices to keep the new wires in place. The connection port eluded me. No computer design I knew would accommodate this beast. I leaned in closer, squinting under the desk lamp's harsh glare, securing the last of the outer sheath. About as complete as my knowledge allowed. I went to sit back and almost jumped when a heavy hand clamped onto my shoulder. "Earth to Ken!" Mr. Clemens grumbled, his voice gravely from years of smoking. "Shift's over. Go get some sustenance and some sleep." I blinked, glancing at the clock. Time slipped again. "This cord's a puzzle, Mr. C. 4 prongs, double ground. Like it's for something cutting edge. Mind if I stash it for next week?" Mr. Clemens arched a bushy eyebrow, peering over my shoulder. "Weird one, huh? You're the only freak who gets excited about cables instead of the boxes they plug into. Suit yourself, but don't turn my shop into your playground off the clock." He clapped me on the back and shuffled away, lighting another cigarette. I was so engrossed in the cable I didn't berate Mr. Clemens on his smoking. I gathered my tools, slinging my backpack over one shoulder. Sun hung low outside, painting the cracked pavement in oranges and purples. My mind raced ahead, replaying the cord's specs. Something that complicated could only be the next level of computing. A 64-bit system. The idea was laughable. But those who didn't see the boundaries in life pushed to excel them and became the ones who rewrote what was possible. I'd always dreamed of pushing tech's boundaries, not just patching old relics. Shadows stretched like fingers across the lot, weeds pushing through fissures in the cement, snagging at my sneakers. Tried to right myself and slammed chest first into a solid figure. The impact jarred me back, my backpack sliding off my shoulder and thumping to the ground. "Oh man, I wasn't looking," I stammered, scrambling to retrieve my bag. Great, now I was that guy, head in the clouds. The man didn't budge, just puffed on a cigarette, exhaling a slow plume that curled in the evening air. He wore a dark leather jacket over faded jeans, his face shadowed by the dying light. "No sweat, kid. Invisibility cloak's working overtime today." Ground the bud against the shop's brick wall. "You work for Clemens? Those copper specks on your fingers scream wire jockey." I glanced down, brushing at the metallic dust clinging to my skin. Never had this much build-up from just trimming one cable. Granted, it might as well have been 3. Sloppy. That's how you get copper splinters. Yeah, part-time. Cables are my jam. The way they've evolved, shrinking sizes, boosting efficiency. Software gets all the hype, but without the right wiring, it's just dead code. I caught myself rambling and clamped my mouth shut. The man chuckled a low rumble. "Name's Jonathan. Been hauling gear for Clemens longer than you've been alive. Probably. You?" "Ken." We shook hands, Jonathan's grip firm and calloused. Strong hands. Must handle heavy stuff. Nice to meet you, kid. How long you been working for Clemens? I normally do morning deliveries, but my schedule's all over the place now. This is the only time I can spare. I didn't even know the man had broken down and hired help, Jonathan stated, tempting to inquire more about me. The conversation shifted to my obsession with electricity and wiring, landing squarely on the peculiarity of the day. As I described the bizarre cord, torn ends, extra wires, Jonathan's eyes sharpened. He got it. Finally, someone who listened. My mind whirled with excitement. Sounds familiar. Got a tower in the back with some strange attributes. No ports, just direct wire feeds, like the hardware's fused straight to the lines, Jonathan said. My pulse spiked. I looked at the distant setting sun. I still had studying to do. Midterms weren't going to ace themselves. But this was a mystery begging to be cracked. It could be the missing piece to propel me to new heights. I swallowed, and against all sense blurted, "Show me." Jonathan jerked his thumb toward the shop. "Why not? Clemens won't mind a little overtime curiosity." Free work. Worth it for answers. I pushed through as the door swung back on me, the bell chiming loudly. Mr. Clemens looked up from his newspaper at the front counter, folding it with a rustle. "Back already? You're off the clock. Don't go frying yourself." I grinned. "Won't take long. I got a helper here. See? Teamwork makes the dream work." Mr. Clemens squinted at Jonathan, but said nothing. Just grunted and returned to his reading. Weird look. Maybe he was tired. In the back corner, amid stacks of discarded screens and towers in various states of disassembly, sat a sleek black box. No logos, just a matte finish. I flipped it around. The back plate featured bolted protrusions, raw and unpolished, ready for direct connections, like a custom rig. "Those bolts have to be the connection point," I said. "Just like a car battery. Wrap the wire and good to go," Jonathan stated. I'd never worked on vehicle batteries, but I understood the concept. Snatched the repaired cord from my bench, matching wires to posts with practiced ease, red to positive, blue to neutral, grounds doubled up. This has to be a homemade supercomputer. Look at the beefy setup. Probably draws power like a small reactor. But I cracked this. It could change everything, I said, looking at Jonathan with expectant eyes. He said, "So eager to take someone else's work?" I was set aback for a second before regaining myself. "No, it's just something I can't learn at school. Isn't that the point of a practical job?" Jonathan simply nodded. He watched silently, arms crossed, as I twisted the final wire onto its bolt. I broke the silence. "Why so quiet? This might be us making history." Jonathan scoffed at my naivety. Crackles split the air, and my words turned into something else. Ozone scorched my nostrils. Pain exploded through my fingers, racing up my arm like molten wire. I screamed, flailing my hand as numbness set in. Red welt bloomed on my palm, centered on a tiny pinhole that looked drilled clean through. "What the hell? I grounded it!" I said in awe. Mr. Clemens hollered from the front. "I told you to ground yourself, idiot!" Jonathan hovered, his expression flickering between worry and something unreadable. "You good? That zap looked nasty. Liability's no joke. I don't need a lawsuit on my hands, or something worse." Flexed my fingers, sluggish and twitching. "Yeah, worst one yet. Feels like it burned straight to the bone. This thing's packing serious juice. Whose is it?" "Reject pile," Jonathan said, shrugging. "Clients dump crap and ghost. Probably some tinkerer's failed experiment." Patted my shoulder, much more gently than Mr. Clemens. His hand was firm and steered me toward the exit. I figured he might be concerned that our curiosity had pushed past professionalism. "Call it a night. Studies can wait for no man." He was right. Can't let this derail me. I wondered when I had mentioned my studies, but I shrugged it off. I did have a backpack on. Outside, the cool air soothed my throbbing hand. I bandaged it at home, popping aspirin and trying to focus on textbooks, but the burn pulsed like a reminder. Just a freak accident. Shake it off. Next week dragged. The burn didn't blister or ooze, but a deep ache burrowed into my bones. It felt like a needle digging itself deeper. Slathered ointment, wrapped it tight and pushed through lectures, notes smudged from sweaty palms. Focus, Ken. Midterms were my ticket out. Red rashes speckled my forearm, itching like embedded splinters. Scratched absent-mindedly while stripping insulation from a batch of phone line cables, the snip of my cutters punctuating each wince. Mr. Clemens paused mid-stride, tools clinking in his pocket. "You keep huffing like that, kid. I'm gonna think you're dying back here." I spun in my chair, forcing a grin. "Just copper shards. Happens all the time. I'll be golden next week." Mr. Clemens eyed me skeptically, but shuffled on, muttering about stubborn youth. I clocked out. The door's chime echoed behind me. The evening air nipped at my skin, but the itch burned hotter. Ignore it, it's nothing. 20 feet down the street, Jonathan leaned against the wall, cigarette glowing like a beacon. "Rough day?" Jonathan called, exhaling smoke. He always knew. Coincidence? I must wear it on my face. "Bad obvious," I said as I clutched my arm, the rash pulsing. "Can't shake this damn itch. It's been killing my work ethic and my focus for studying. 3 weeks until midterms. I feel like they're driving me crazy. Maybe a good night's sleep. Should skip studying tonight," I said almost to myself, realizing I'd been pushing myself too hard. No point in burning out and failing after all the effort. Jonathan's gaze lingered on my sleeve. "Seen you picking at it during shifts. Careful, could get infected." I frowned. "How'd you see that? You weren't inside." Creepy. But maybe he was just observant. Jonathan smirked. "Delivery runs take me everywhere. Just looking out." Words hung oddly, but I shrugged it off, heading to the dorm. That night I clawed at the rashes until blood dotted my sheets. The pain was a constant hum, and I wished I could drown it out with my studies, but I couldn't concentrate anyway. Under my skin, I could feel it sliding against the bone, making a path up my arm like an extreme ingrown hair. Unwrapping the bandage in my dim dormitory bathroom, I stared at my arm. Dark lines snaked under my skin like veins of shadow, writhing faintly as if alive. This couldn't be real. Dried blood? Or worse? I pressed a finger to one, feeling it shift. Bumps rose, piercing through. Thin, wiry fibers in blue and red hues, curling out like aberrant hairs. Each brush of fabric sent laces of agony shooting up my limb. I doubled over the sink, breath heaving, sweat beading on my forehead. "What the hell is this?" I gasped, popping more painkillers. The pills dulled the edge, but the fibers grew, twisting with every flex. The thought of someone seeing my grotesque arm alone caused bile to rise in my throat. I would bandage it up and hide it away, ignore it. Jonathan's words rang in my head. Picking is the first sign. Was this some kind of mental break? A delusion created to sabotage the midterms? My anxiety, fear, and panic manifested in a detrimental habit. At work, I hid it under long sleeves, soldering with gritted teeth. Push through. I was stronger than this. Mr. Clemens caught me mid-wince. "That's it. You go see a doc before you keel over. If it's not better next week, I swear, if I go now, I will miss midterms. Kid, your health is more important than your studies." "My health won't get me out of here," I shot back, my voice tight. I hadn't meant it as anything against the shop or Mr. Clemens. I just wanted more from my life, and I would take all the opportunities to make that happen as I could. Mr. Clemens nodded, whispering something under his breath. Youth can't admit their weakness. I remember those days. Trust me, kid, you'll grow out of it. Outside, Jonathan waited, cigarette in hand. "Arm's looking worse, bro. A burn spread?" I keeled as a fiber snagged on my shirt, pain exploding. "It's nothing. Leave it." Why did he care so much? But Jonathan pressed a napkin into my hand. "Dr. Schmore, specialist. He's helped folks with weird stuff." I pocketed it, doubt swirling. Jonathan's final words splicing through my mind. "Did you do that on purpose?" That night, memories fragmented, shifts blurring into blackouts, hands moving on autopilot. Was I doing this to myself? No. Prove it. The thought sickened me. Desperation peaked at my next shift. Glancing over my shoulder, no Mr. Clemens, no Jonathan. I grabbed thin 6mm wires, stripping them bare. Sick, but necessary. Heart hammering, I pressed them into the outer arm skin, mimicking the growths. Blood welled, pain flared, but it was shallow, not the bone-deep torment. Not the same, I whispered, bandaging hastily as sweat soaked my shirt. The difference in injury would prove at least something to the doc. The pain had hit my threshold. I could no longer hold back. Midterms or my sanity? I chose my sanity. The difference in injury would prove at least something to the doctor. The frustration and fear pushing me to the edge. It always led to one small thing boiling over. Right now, above the pain, there was one thing that loomed with a multiplier I could not withstand. The stench of moldy bread, dried fruit, and many just as unpleasant smells emanated from the corner of the room. Paul wasn't coming back. I guess it's my turn to take out the trash. I rolled the napkin in my hand, standing over the dumpster, consideration flickering. Throw it away and ignore it. That was how I lived my life. But did I want to continue to do that? No. This would be my first step, taking control of my life. Instead of heading back to my dorm, I walked to the student office. I would set an appointment. If I wanted to ace these midterms, I had no choice. Pain was too debilitating. I had to overcome my stubbornness before it was too late. This would be a monumental life experience. If I didn't learn now, I never would. The clinic reeked of antiseptic and stale smoke. Patients coughed in the waiting room. An old man noticed my jittering leg and offered a cigarette. First time, please calm the shakes. Why not? Anything to steady myself, I said. The man removed a cigarette and used his own to light it before handing it to me. I inhaled deeply, the nicotine rush, a welcome relief. Human vice, self-harm, and a stick. At least it was painless until the end. My name echoed across the reception room. I stood, thanked the man for the smoke, and ashed it on the tray attached to the chair before following the nurse to a sterile room. Dr. Schmore, bespectacled and calm, listened and watched as I unwound my tail and the bandages, exposing the tangled fibers. Doctor protruded gently. More Jellins. Often delusional, self-inflicted to mask emotional pain. Any trauma? School stress? I shook my head. No trauma I know of, but school is hell, and I work. I was not delusional. Pain was real. Fibers were real. Can you remove them? I asked. The doctor turned to grab tweezers and began to tug at a fiber. Blood dropped in small specks. The skin pulled back, closing as the wire dislodged. I bit back tears and screams, even with the numbing agent. My arm felt like it was being amputated. Each fiber snapped free amid my raw screams. Blood trickled, ointment flowed. The final snap stung my ears. My heart slammed into the cot I lay on. Relief flooded me, though aches lingered as the skin began to set back in place. I shakily left the clinic. The doctor seemed eager to dispatch me as soon as the fibers had been removed. My palm, however, still felt like a worm writhing under my skin. The doctor's words clung to me like my sweat. Fresh ones are shallower. The longer they're in, the deeper they dig. From what I've seen in the past, first ones are 3 weeks old. One on the other side was only a few days. I'm gonna recommend you see a psychiatrist. Hypnosis can uncover what's buried. You might be able to find the trigger for this kind of super hypochondria. I staggered home, flexing my arm. Pain was manageable now. A controllable throb. Control, finally. But by morning, fibers regrew quicker, coiling like living circuits. Pustules burst under pressure, blood mixing with a metallic sheen. I had not been to the shop, for work or recreation. I had no means of acquiring this much copper. The wires were as numerous as hairs, my skin hidden underneath them. At my wit's end, I called upon the one person I trusted most. It was my day off, but I needed someone to talk to. Struggling all the way there through the pain, I finally heard that soothing sound of the chiming bell. I confided in Mr. Clemens, told him everything. Then I rolled up my sleeve. The old man's face paled, a hand covered his mouth. Jesus, kid, that's no Splinter. And this Jonathan? Ain't no delivery guy here. Folks pick up their own gear. My stomach dropped. Had he been lying? I'd never seen him inside the store. And that look the first time I had come in with Jonathan. The way he was always outside, always knowing. My arm numbed, wires wrapping like vines. I was becoming used to the pain. That was almost as terrifying. Was my arm even mine anymore? Something had taken it over, and the rest of me would be next. A thought sprang from the back of my head to the front. Mr. C, you have a catalog of all the people's computers, right? You have one for that weird old tower in the back that you said I would be interested in the wiring for? The one that shocked me. Whoever built it might know how to fix this. I was desperate. I had no one else to turn to. And how could I explain my arm to the doctor? I'd be trucked off and quarantined. Who knew if this was contagious? I suddenly thought of all the people I'd come into contact with, and was thankful in a way that Paul was gone. I dragged Mr. Clemens to the back. That tower. It's the key. Mr. Clemens frowned, tools clattering. Oh, this one? I plugged the cord into the outlet. The two upper and lower prongs with the groundings under them fit into the vertical slots. No zap this time. Heart racing, the answer in reach. Power hummed. Fan whirred unevenly. You know whose computer that is. Something in me jolted at those words. I tried to turn to face Mr. Clemens, but I no longer had control of my body. My arm was being dragged like a magnet toward the computer tower. I coughed as my lungs felt paralyzed. A tickle in my nose made me sneeze. The wires protruding from my arm writhed to life, streaming towards the computer. The screen lit up with a name on the login. John. Terror gripped me. I felt something inside my head being pulled, snapping out my consciousness. The machine infecting through the shock, rewiring flesh into code. Fibers surged, syncing with the hum. They lashed from my arm, homing in on the computer. My eyes rolled into the back of my head. I fell to the floor. Mr. Clemens pulled out a cigarette and lit it, taking a steady, calm inhale. An empty, silent scream hung across my jaw. The wires wrapped around my arm, digging up my shoulder and into my neck. They fused with the bolts on the back of the computer, sending tiny sparks across the fibers. They pulsed in rhythm with increasing volume of the computer's hum. Mr. Clemens backed away. My body was slowly moving toward the tower, dragged in by the wires. I began to fuse to the tower, the line between flesh and cable blurred. The sound of footsteps echoed behind Mr. Clemens. He moved to the side of the door and looked back towards the front of his shop. A man walked down the aisle. Mr. Clemens' voice was devoid of emotion as he spoke. He looked back towards Ken's body. Jonathan, got another delivery for you. Thank you for listening. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The blue might catch up to you if you do not. Be sure to check out more blue horror stories.